We have a massive week coming up right now for silver and gold. It's going to be a big week for you, basement dweller. But we also have a big warning from the Bank for International Settlements. Now, who are they, you may ask? Well, they are the central bank of the central banks. They are essentially who the United States Federal Reserve and our old friend Gomer Powell report to. And they're issuing a stark warning. We're also going to look at this project MBridge. I'll share with you a few things that I learned about that and what that could mean for the value of your silver and gold. Big developments going on everywhere. But wait, there's even more. We're getting a big warning from the U.S. bond market, and that relates directly to precious metals as well. But before we get to that, I want to say thank you for joining me bright and early. Here we are. And guys, we have so much to talk about. It's such a big honor to me and Susie that you join us here in the basement. Thank you for your ongoing support. Please give this a thumbs up. You can subscribe to the channel. It's always free. And super chats, any form of support are always greatly appreciated. I just wanted to say thank you. Hey, I've been catching a lot of heat. I said something yesterday, got myself into a little bit of trouble, apparently. I made this statement that with 1.4 billion people in China, 1.4 billion, need I remind you, we have just a little over 300 million in the United States, but with 1.4 billion people in China, if just 7 out of 10 of them, or 70%, that would be almost 1 billion people, technically 980 million people. But if they were all to buy 1 ounce of silver, it would wipe out the entire year mine supply. Well, I got in some big trouble. Thank you, Daniel. Wow, lift my spirits here on a Monday morning. Thank you. I got some heated response to that idea. People saying you're spreading misinformation. That people in China can hardly afford to eat, and there's no way that they're gonna that you could get 7 out. And I wasn't saying that I thought it was going to happen this week, this month. I was just using that as an example. But I want to come back on that a little bit, fight back, guys, because seriously, number one, I don't think everybody in China is starving anymore. We know the Chinese people are buying gold hand over fist. Right? We see pictures of 800,000 Chinese people lining up to buy gold after the lunar holiday. I don't think it's that big of a stretch to think that 7 out of 10 of them could afford to buy 1 stinking ounce of silver and wipe out the entire mining supply for the year. But I also want to throw in there, if you add China and India's populations together, you come to $2.8 billion. I want to refer to my notes to make sure I have this accurate. 2.8 billion people. I apologize. 2.8 billion people. All the Chinese, all the Indians. You know the story. They love silver and gold. If we had just 35%, okay, 35% of the people that live in China and India buy 1 ounce of silver, that would be 1 billion people. Again, just 35% of the Chinese and the Indian population. The point is that the silver and gold markets are so sensitive, so delicate, right? Especially silver. There's just not a lot of silver out there. And if you're talking about 4 out of 10, I'll be conservative, Chinese and Indian people buying 1 ounce of silver. And then people say, well, people in India are poor. People in India are poor. People in the United States are poor. People everywhere are poor, right? But people in India, you can't tell me that 7 out of 10 Indian people couldn't afford to buy 1 ounce of silver, because CoinShop Chris, thanks again, Daniel, for that super chat. Super appreciated. CoinShop Chris and I'm going to pull something up quickly for you. Looked at this yesterday. Okay. If you're going to tell me, all right, that, and this is from India. This is from the Times of India newspaper. Okay. Listen, the big study, irrespective of income, gold accounts for an average 18% of assets held by Indian households. They surveyed 43,000 Indian households. They came on average, the average Indian household. Here, I'll read this to you. The lure of gold is never diminished for Indians, irrespective of their income level. An average Indian household has 18% of their total investment in gold. indicated a study carried out by the India Gold Policy Center. So if they can afford that much gold, and let's take a step back, we also know that Indian households, just their households, not their central banks, have 25,000 metric tons of gold, right? Like 3 times of what the United States supposedly has at Fort Knox. Thank you, all 200 of you basement dwellers, bright and early here on a Monday morning. How can Indian households have 25,000 metric tons? 3 times that of what we have supposedly hidden at Fort Knox. But you're going to tell me that Indian households, Indian people couldn't afford to buy 1 ounce of silver per person on average, and they have 18% of their wealth. I almost knocked my coffee over. Stored in gold. So I'm sorry to the guy or the several people that said I was crazy to say these things and I'm spreading misinformation. I don't agree. Right. I think that in particular, if you combine India and China, 2.8 billion people, and say, do you think 4 out of 10 people in those countries could afford to buy 1 ounce of silver? Yes. Okay. And it's just an example. But again, I want to hammer home. It shows just how delicate the market is. And on top of that, think about how the solar, and you know the whole story, the solar, the electronics, the electric car industry is sucking in all this silver. Heck, we could probably have 1 out of 10 Indian people, 1 out of 10 Chinese people buy 1 ounce of silver, and it would wipe out like all available above ground supplies. I mean, because because what industry, we don't even know what the military is using silver wise. We don't even know what they're using for aerospace, satellites, and all that good stuff. Hey, let's all have a quick sip of coffee. Okay, this is the biggest week in the history of the world for silver and gold. Seriously, it's a big week. Tuesday and Wednesday. Don't forget this guy, Jerome Powell. I'm going to leave him in his box this morning. He gets Monday off. Jerome Powell's going to be testifying in Washington, D.C. I don't know, to the House of Representatives. He does it once every 6 months. So we could get some big headlines that do move the silver and gold price. Again, noise, short-term noise, but I want you to be aware that that's going on. And of course, Thursday will be the inflation number. We've talked about that exhaustively. I am predicting, I'm going out on a limb, a tree limb, like the tree limbs I trimmed yesterday. Man, after the live stream yesterday morning, I'm 54 years old. I don't know how old you are, but I went out and did about 4 hours of tree trimming, and it just knocked me for a loop. And it was hot, but not that hot. I tell you what, people that work with trees, tree trimming, that's got to be the hardest work. Okay. And I was a steel worker during the summers when I was in college, made steel 3-piece can baby food, baby formula cans. I've done some hard work in some hot conditions, but tree work is the worst. But I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you that on Wednesday, here's what you can expect. This is how it all works, right? The current administration needs a low inflation number so they can brag to the world that, oh, inflation's down. We're doing a great job. Look, what do they call it? Disasternomics? No, not disasternomics. Voodoo? No, I think it's called Bidenomics. It's working. Anyway, they need a low inflation number. Guess who else needs a low inflation number? Yeah, our old friend. Let's get him out. What the heck? Here he is. He's so available. Everybody say hi. You'll be hearing a lot from me this week on Tuesday and Wednesday, but this guy also needs a low inflation number on Wednesday because the U.S. economy is in full break mode. I mean, have you noticed? Over the weekend, it was like Saturday night, or maybe it was Friday night. I don't know, Friday or Saturday night. I went to my little shop. I have a shopping center about a mile from my house with my daughters to buy some Bluebell ice cream because they love Bluebell or Bell. I don't know, this new ice cream that came out. There's a Dearborg's grocery store. There's a big, massive strip mall with like probably 100 different stores, Chinese restaurants, Mexican restaurants, bread company. We call it the bread company. Panera, I think is what you call it. The place was empty. It was like 8:00, granted, but I'm like, it's empty. I'm getting reports from everybody. I heard a guy talking about he was bringing his daughter, his like 2-year-old daughter, to her swim lessons. And he was like, a year ago, I couldn't find a place to park here. Right now, it's like a ghost town. I mean, guys, things are slow. And like, think about things like eating out, like I just talked about, what I saw. Think about things like swim lessons for your 2 or 3-year-old. Irrespective, people will do almost anything for their kids. I know you're one of those people, right? You do anything for your kids, your family. But swim lessons for a 2 or 3-year-old, if money gets tight, that might be one of those things that you say, you know what? We can put that off for a year or two. So things are slowing down. The Fed does need to see, they need a low inflation number, even though it'll all be concocted, it's all a bunch of BS, right? But I'm just telling you what to expect. I'm out on a limb. If I'm wrong on Thursday, I'll come here and say I'm wrong, but they need that low inflation number so that the Fed, everybody's clamoring for rate cuts. That's all you're going to hear about this week. Rate cuts, rate cuts, rate cuts. September, or 1 or 2 rate cuts, 2 or 3 rate cuts, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It will move the market. That's what you can expect. A lower inflation print. You heard it here first. Okay. And then all this uproar in the mainstream financial media about how they're going to have to cut rates. And it should be a supportive environment for silver and gold. Don't make any financial decisions based on that. Don't make any decisions based on that. But that's what I see happening. I think we could have smiles on our face potentially by the end of the week as we go into next weekend when we look at the silver and gold. It's all manipulated, guys, and I'll give you my best read. Look, you give me your opinion. Leave a comment in the comment section. I want to run out and say thank you. Let's do an update. Okay. Well, let's say this first. Pimbex makes this live stream video possible. So do our other sponsors, First Mining Gold and Fortuna Mining. But Pimbex is a company that I've used to buy my silver from for over a year, multiple purchases. I worked with them before they were a sponsor of the basement. I was so thrilled when we came to an agreement for them to sponsor because I believe in the company. I know that when I go there, it's a one-stop shop where I'm going to get ultra competitive pricing. Okay. And that's important to me because I want to get the most metal for my money. I want to make sure that there's an ample selection, and there always is. They always have what I need. And it's a company that I can trust. I know the guys that started it, that own it. I happen to think very highly of them, but hey, you need to figure it out for yourself. I will never tell you what you should do or what you need to do, but I'm just making a recommendation. Next time you're in the market, go market for gold or silver or platinum, or thinking about converting an IRA into precious metals. I really do think you'll do yourself a favor by checking out Pimbex. Let's do an update, okay? Take your blood pressure medicine. I'm going to click it here, and come on. Oh, is that it? Okay, hey, we're down $13 in gold. I'll take it. It was worse earlier. Silver, $31.07. So, guys, we're hanging strong. Let's talk about these big warnings coming at us. Some big warnings. Do you know the Bank for International Settlements? You need to know who this is. I'll tell you what, this guy has a boss. Yeah, well, besides the fact that he works for a bunch of wealthy bankers, he also has an organization above him called the Bank for International Settlements. And they put out a big, big warning. Okay. And now we've got the situation going on in France that we're going to talk about that could exacerbate the situation. And we also have another big warning we're going to get to from the U.S. bond market. We got warnings going off everywhere. Hopefully I put red sirens in the description for this video here. This is from The Guardian, which I think is a newspaper based in the United Kingdom, where the LBMA is, the London Bullion Market Association. Anyhow, this says soaring government debt could roil global financial. Guys, okay, it's just a headline, right? Soaring government debt could roil global financial markets, warns the Bank for International Settlements head. There's 3 big things in here, okay? Soaring government debt, okay? The roiling of global financial markets, which would mean like financial crisis, by the way. Remember, we talked about that, a white swan, not a black swan, because we see it coming. So to us, it's a white swan. But the head of the BIS, the head of the Bank for International Settlements, that's the central bank for the central banks. And this guy is Augustine Karsten, said world economy on course for a smooth landing after inflation, but political turmoil risks. Okay, let's just read this 2 paragraphs because this is a big warning. Rising government debt levels could disturb global financial markets. The head of the body that advises central banks said on Sunday before France's high-stake parliament elections. Wait till you hear about what happened in France, guys. The dial has been turned up, okay? Augustine Karstens, the general manager of the Bank for International Settlements, said the world economy was on course for a smooth landing from the inflation crisis, but he warned that policymakers, especially politicians, needed to be careful. He basically, and I dug into this deeply, and a couple of other articles said that these things pop up out of nowhere, and that we're kind of on the verge, right? We're in a very precarious situation. So they didn't get into that in this. They conveniently left that out in this article, but he did say, like, we are in a very precarious situation, and these things happen, right? Like in an instant. Again, it's not a black swan to you, right? It's a white swan, because you likely know, right? You listen to people like me. You listen to all kinds of different people that are analyzing what's going on. Please just don't listen to me. Trust me. That's not a good idea. Listen to a lot of different people. Form your own opinions. But what he's saying is that this can happen quickly. He said they, meaning the governments, must cut short the rise in public debt and accept that interest rates may not return to pre-pandemic ultra-low levels. We need a solid foundation to build upon. Then he said this. He did say this, quote, they can surprise you without much notice. Talking about turbulence in Britain, they had a little miniature financial crisis in Britain. With the collapse of their bond market, that happened, and they came in and, of course, printed money and saved the day. Okay, now let's talk about France, right? Look, we're not an international politics channel. We're not a politics channel at all, but there's big warnings going on. France could be a catalyst. We could be blaming France for a financial crisis 6 or 7 weeks from now. You heard it here first. I'm not predicting that, but I'm saying we could, because there's all kinds of political turmoil in France. And what happened yesterday, when it comes to a financial markets perspective, was the worst case scenario. It said the left-wing New Popular Front Alliance, now polling second, says its first moves would include a 10% civil servant pay hike, providing free school lunches, supplies, and transport, while raising household subsidies by 10%. This turmoil has sent the cost of French government of servicing its debt on the international markets rocketing, with the risk premium or spread demanded by holders of French debt over Germany's rising to its highest level since 2012. So the debt of France is collapsing in value because people are scared, and what they warned about happening here, guys, did happen yesterday. Again, I'm not making a political statement, but let's go take a look quickly at something very interesting. So this ultra left coalition, I guess, won, and here was what Daniel Lacal had to say. Here on X, he said France was going to choose between more debt, and way more debt. Way more debt it is. Fascinating. So the party that won, right, the political force that will be taking over in France is going to be blowing out their debt levels, and that was what the BIS guy was warning about before these elections occurred. Deficit and debt projections via Bloomberg. So we need to keep an eye on that. Now, at the same time, what about Project MBridge? Right? I'm going to touch on that for a second, because all of this ties into this Project MBridge, which is affiliated with the Bank for International Settlements. Some people are speculating, right? This is a CBDC related payment system between some of the BRICS countries. We're going to dig into it here in a second, but some people are speculating that soon, it could potentially be back to a certain degree with gold, right? The return to a gold standard type operation. So and let's remember one thing, right? When we're talking about the Bank for International Settlements, that's the central bank of the central banks. You can think that Jerome Powell reports to them, okay? But the other little secret thing, right, that we all kind of forgot about, it was a big deal 3-4 years ago, and it still is a huge deal, and it could play into this new monetary system, potentially even this MBridge system, is that the Bank for International Settlements, when they put out their Basel III regulations, they totally moved up how gold is valued on the balance sheets of central banks. They made it into a tier 1 asset. And a lot of people in the silver and gold community made a huge deal about that when it was going on. And it still is a huge deal. So we've got the Bank for International Settlements warning of a debt crisis, essentially, saying that it could happen quickly, warning against situations unfolding like we're seeing in France. And again, I'm all for the people. I'm not speaking against France, but warning against what's happening in France. We have France is going into a potential debt crisis of sorts, right? And at the same time, we have this project MBridge going on. Let's go quickly just to do a quick brief bit of education here. The MBridge system, multiple CBDC bridge, is a multi-CBDC platform developed to support real-time peer-to-peer cross-border payments and foreign exchange transactions using CBDCs. Based on a blockchain called MBridge Ledger, the platform is designed to ensure compliance with jurisdiction-specific policy and legal requirements, regulations, and government needs. This is where it gets interesting, though. We're just going to read this paragraph because this gives us some insight into what's going on. There we go. In blue. Oh, did I press the button? I did. Hold on. Here we go, guys. In blue, currently 5 entities are jointly developing MBridge. They include the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the Bank of Thailand, the Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates, the Digital Currency Research Institute of the People's Bank of China, and the Bank for International Settlements Innovation Hub Hong Kong Center. Saudi Arabia's central bank joined in June of 2024. That would have been last month. Guys, this is huge, okay? This is huge. Hong Kong, Thailand, Hong Kong Central Bank, Thailand Central Bank, UAE Central Bank, the Chinese Central Bank, right? And the Bank for International Settlements themselves, the great granddaddy of central banking, and now Saudi Arabia. So we need to keep a close eye on what is going on in the world, because they're kind of setting the stage, right? They're kind of setting the stage. They aren't going to telegraph to us what's going on. We do have to play 3D chess. We do have to dive into the deep end, and it sure feels like something is brewing. You know, I watched a great video. This guy that was talking about the like potential for a financial crisis, the fact that the economy in the United States is crashing right now. And he brought up a great point. He's like, they're never going to tell us that it's going on. And this was the guy who was at his kid's swimming lesson parking lot saying, there's nobody here. Nobody's doing swimming lessons. People aren't paying. The people told, like, they don't have money, right? He brought up a great point. He said they aren't going to tell us that that's going on. We aren't going to get that message from Janet Yellen or anything like that. Think about what happened with President Biden, right? They didn't tell anybody that was going on. You probably knew. I knew, because I dive in the deep end. We dive into the deep end. We look at alternative news sources. We had seen reports over the years that the mental capacity of Joe Biden was being questioned, okay? Not a political show here, not at all, but I'm just talking facts. I saw many, many clips, many articles that questioned what was going on with President Joe Biden. 99% of Americans apparently didn't know that was going on, right? They were surprised last Thursday at the debate situation. The same thing can be going on right now with the economy. They're not going to tell. They weren't telling us. It wasn't me. It wasn't on CNN, the Children's News Network. It wasn't on MSNBS or any of those stations that we have big issue. No, Just like right now, they're not going to tell you, whoa, the economy's in bad shape. They're going to wait until they just absolutely have to. So just bear that in mind as we navigate through what's going on. Okay. Um, Okay, what about the United States? Let me just throw this in there. We talked about the Bank for International Settlements warning with what's going on in France, warning about the potential for like something to happen quickly, financial crisis wise. We know that the situation in France now is escalating what's going on. But what about the United States, right? What if we have a contested election? What if we have political turmoil here? There's so many things sitting right there that could be the catalyst, right? That could easily be a catalyst for some very, very difficult times in the world economy. That could be a catalyst for some level of a financial crisis. I don't want to be, the sky is falling, right? We could be wrong. I mean, let's be real. The first 6 months of this year were pretty non-eventful, right? But again, these things happen all of a sudden. It's like Andy Scheckman says, it's like playing Jenga, right? You take a piece out, you have recency bias, you think, oh, everything's great, everything's wonderful. I'm hearing a lot more people talk about this idea of recency bias. Well, nothing happened. Excuse me, nothing happened yesterday, so nothing will happen today until it all does happen. And what is the bond market warning us? And what does that have? This is crazy, guys. This is absolutely. Lynette Zhang was the first person that I saw bring this up. But other top analysts are talking about what's going on with gold and the bond market. And it really is, well, good news for precious metals investors. Let's all have a drink of coffee and be right back. All right, we're back. I need to put up our banner so we can see and support our sponsors here in the basement. Hey, thank you again for that super chat. That was super awesome, Daniel. I really appreciate it. All right, guys. Now, have you heard? This is what we would consider breaking news for silver and gold investors. What's the safest investment you can make? I want you to think about that. Right? What have you always been told? What is the mainstream financial services industry? What does the mainstream media tell you? The safest, right? You want to be safe with your money. Oh, U.S. Treasury bonds. Those are the safest investment, right? That's good as gold. Well, maybe not. Maybe not, right? But the world has been brainwashed into believing that IOUs from the U.S. government, right? And we know the whole story on the debt and the deficits. We won't go there, but these IOUs, these promises, are the safest investment in the history of the world. Well, guys, that has changed. We had a major big change occur. Let's read this. I thought this was a good synopsis. For the first time in 50 years, gold returns surpass that of U.S. debt. Here, for the most of the past half century, U.S. Treasury bonds have easily outperformed gold as a type of investment bought and held. Okay, so bonds were, remember, it was a 50-year rally in the bond markets. Yeah, no joke, because it was all based on money printing, make-believe, funny money, QE and a bunch of BS. Not right, 50 years, roughly, since Nixon took us off the gold standard. Today, the status of U.S. Treasury bonds as the ultimate safe haven is facing one of the greatest challenges ever before. Okay, that article says, our paragraph says, people traditionally buy bonds because they're the safest thing ever. That's what their parents told them, and that's what their stockbroker tells them. And anyway, the stockbroker doesn't tell them to buy gold or silver because the stockbroker doesn't make, our financial planner doesn't make a hefty commission off that, but they do make a commission off bonds. Nonetheless, I digress. Recently, this relationship between gold and bonds has been changing. The recent trends are favorable to gold. The benchmark, Bloomberg, U.S. Treasury Total Return Index, is on its way to its third annual decline, extending the decline since peaking in 2020 to 11%. In contrast, gold hit a new high this week, and has recorded a 15% return so far this year. I read 16% in a different article earlier. Okay, here, the first choice for safe haven assets has become gold rather than U.S. Treasury bonds. This is Hooper who said that. Hooper! Thank you, Hooper. I wonder if you're an analyst. Anyway, the bigger subject is concern about America's huge debt and unsustainable U.S. fiscal conditions. Okay, guys, gold is beating bonds on a 50-year basis. This is huge on a couple levels because bonds are going to continue to go down in value. Okay. Number two, the other big thing, I want you to think about this, is this fact becomes, as more people recognize this, that will be more and more people saying, oh my gosh, did you hear that gold beat treasury bonds? That will be more and more people, more and more attention on gold and silver, which we both know, right, has been lacking over the last 50 years. Absolutely. Gold is fighting back. Gold is in a war against good and evil. This divergence in performance means that gold has surpassed U.S. government debt as a long-term investment. $1 invested in gold 51 years ago is now worth 23.14. Wait a minute. I don't think that makes sense. Anyway, don't quote me on that one, which is $172 more than the return from the Bloomberg U.S. Treasury Index, which came out in 1973. Okay. They do point out this comparison does not take into account the storage cost of holding gold, but if you hold it at your house or you hold it wherever, you don't have to worry about that. Guys, this is the war between good and evil. Thank you again, Daniel, for that super chat. Thank you guys for giving this a thumbs up. Do you want to do something nice quickly? Doesn't it feel good to do nice things, basement dwellers? Yes, I know one thing about you. Okay, I think about this every time I go to my mailbox. I think about you because oftentimes I see my mailman. Okay, my new mailman's name is Kevin. He's like a friend, and I always think about my basement dwellers. I'm like, they're the type of people that are like me. They're friends with their mailman. They know who their trash man is, right? They're just good, down-to-earth people. So thank you for being here. I don't know why I said that, but I really feel that, right? Like you're good. Oh, I know why. You're good, nice people. Please give this a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you feel generous ever, yeah, super chats are super appreciated. Okay. Anything you send me, I'm always very appreciative. But we are in a war between good and evil. Really? Really? Wait till you hear this. Wait. This one knocked my socks off. Okay. But I want to finish. One last thing on that last point. We were told that bonds were the safest investment in the world. They're good as gold, right? Well, that statement's coming back to bite them in the arse, right? Because they're not good as gold anymore. Gold is, right? And again, guys, could draw major attention to the precious metals. It's all happening. Think about what the BIS guys are saying. Think about what the Bank for International Settlements did with the status of gold, with the Basel III regulations, which made gold a tier 1 asset, right? The world is changing. And I'm not going to say gold and silver are going to completely take over the world, but their status by any measure is increasing, right? Is increasing. More and more people. We know that this Bank of America study that came out recently talked about how young people are increasingly moving their money to alternative asset classes. They don't believe in the stock market. They don't believe in the American dream anymore, unfortunately, a lot of them, right? So what are they doing? Some of them are also moving their money to silver and gold. We are in a very, very interesting period of time right now. But let's talk about the war on silver and gold. I want to pull this up. I thought this was just classic. This came from a guy named David W. Smith. Okay. And let me pull it up so I can read it completely. Okay. This said in a letter to John Epps, and I believe John Epps was a physician, but he was a very politically active person, very well respected. So in a letter to John Epps written in 1813, Thomas Jefferson declared, Thomas Jefferson, guys, Jefferson, he's on our fake money, right? Poor guy. I bet he's rolling over in his grave being on paper money. Anyway, Thomas Jefferson declared gold and silver the best form of money. George Washington. I mean, these are the people that we were taught as young children were the bedrock, the foundation of our country, the smartest guys ever in the world, right? George Washington wrote to Thomas Jefferson on August 1st, 1786, quote, paper money. Think about this, guys. This is moving. I just love the way these guys write. Paper money has had the effect in your state that it will ever have. I'm choking up here. To ruin commerce, oppress the honest, and open the door to every species of fraud and injustice. Can you, in one short sentence, think of anything that could have been written stronger against paper money? Paper money has had the effect in your state that it will ever have, to ruin commerce. Thomas Jefferson said this, okay? It's working. Thomas Jefferson, my friend, it is working. Okay? Ruin commerce, oppress the honest, and open the door to every species of fraud and injustice. That, my friends, absolutely says it all. The other big news. Hey, Brian, thank you. Great job, Brian. Hold on here. FSM, current price. All right. Yes. Fortuna Mining, right? There they are right there. Channel sponsor. Thank you, Brian. Okay. I appreciate the super chat, my friend. Absolutely. The other big breaking news that we had, and I don't know, let's go out. Let's do our check, right? Because we always say if the price keeps going up, we'll keep going back to the PIMBEX website to see. Right, let's take our blood pressure medicine. Last time we checked, gold was down 1340, and we can say now gold's only down $8. Thank you. All right, maybe we'll come back again. Silver, $31.20. But the big news, right? Oh my gosh, guys, gold. The last time this happened, I want you to look. Do I have you guys up? Yes, I do. I want you to look at that, down $8. I want you to put a zero after that, down $80, because the last time this happened, and it was only, I don't know, I guess 4 weeks, 5 weeks ago, a month ago, that's what happened. They used it as an excuse to murder the gold price, and that was this. We're going to go all the way to our friends in London, the Economic Times headline. The central bank refrains from gold purchases for second month. So last month was the first time that they said that in May, the Chinese central bank had not bought any gold, and they crushed the gold price. Remember that? It was a horrible day. I think I talked about this last night, but they also, on that same day, destroyed the silver price, which made no sense, right? Made absolutely no sense. I think I got a couple things I want to show you here. It says, quote, it appears the gold price remains a little too high for the People's Bank of China, and they're waiting for further pullback before resuming their gold purchasing program, said Nitesh Shah, commodities strategist with Wisdom Tree. But there was something else in here. Hold on. Here we go. There's a little more meat on the bone, guys. This guy says, our models indicate that we may get a 7% pullback in the gold price this quarter. That would be now, right? July, August, September. Setting up a perfect opportunity for the People's Bank of China to acquire more gold, said Shaw. But it will have to be quick, as the metal is likely to rally to all-time highs once again shortly thereafter. And yep, that was it. Okay, so China, central bank, oh my gosh. Well, maybe because the Chinese people are buying all the gold, right? I mean, come on, let's be real here. Maybe the Indian people are buying all the gold. One of those countries, I think they had like a 68% increase in gold buying year over year. So we're not so concerned about what the PBOC is doing. Yes, right? It's a big deal. Central banks are buying gold throughout the world, period. Okay. Let's talk about silver. You want more good news on silver? I know I talk about it every day, but we never get sick of it, do we, basement dwellers? Every time we turn around, we're hearing about more silver being needed for solar farms. And then we get this, right? New breaking news, right? From our friend Mark, Big Mark S., friend of the basement, Yahoo News, developer. of utility scale silver solar. Remember, we don't just say solar, we say solar silver projects. Announces major agreement with Meta. Who's Meta? Meta is the company that's Facebook, that owns Facebook. These projects for Meta put us on the map. So now we've got when Meta, the parent company of Facebook, inked the deal, Adapter Renewables, to buy 330 megawatts of solar power from 3 utility scale solar farms last year, 2 in Illinois, 1 in Arkansas. It jump started. Okay, these projects for Meta put us on the map, says the guy that runs the company. Woo, what is that? Hold on. Okay, I don't know. There we go. That's how I get rid of that. So basically, it says down here, the deal with Adapter is part of Meta's strategy to reach net zero pollution across its value chain. Vice President of origination for the solar company said. So these big tech companies are using more and more and more electricity. It's crazy, guys, right? And they're also wanting to, they build these data centers out in the middle of nowhere, right? And how do you get electricity to the middle of nowhere? Well, I got an idea, right? You build a solar farm close by, and it's easy to transmit the electricity. That's what they're doing in China. That's what they're doing in China and India. They're building solar farms that are bigger than the city of Paris, bigger than the city of New York City, right? You've seen the pictures. They're not solar farms. They're solar silver farms, because you can look at each one of those panels and envision that as being roughly about a 1 ounce or a 2/3 ounce bar of silver. And it'll be more in the future, because the new technology in solar is using even more silver. Okay. Now, who would have guessed it? Do you believe? I have a question for you, basement dweller. Do you believe that there were times in history when silver was actually more valuable than gold? Do you believe that? I mean, we know right now the gold to silver ratio, it takes about, we're just going to say about 80-ish ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. But we know that in recent history, that number's gotten down as low as what, 15, 20, 25? I think if we look at the recent, let's say 50, 100-year average, it's averaged more around 50 or 60-ish. Silver is so undervalued, but let's just quickly run out here. I want to show you. This came from LinkedIn, of all places. Okay, from a guy named Adam O'Neill, right? When was silver worth more than gold? You probably always thought gold is the king of monetary metals and silver is the poor man's gold, right? But what if I told you there was a time when silver outshined it? Shocking. Yes, we're shocked. Adam, give us some data. There were indeed times in history when silver was worth more than gold. We will explore this subject by covering the following points. And we already have gone through so many of these guys. We're just going to cover this one. Silver worth more than gold, a historical perspective. Okay. In ancient Rome, for instance, experienced a brief period when silver was more valuable than gold after acquiring large amounts of gold plunder. In the 19th century Japan, I believe that would have been the 1800s, guys, Japan sought silver so eagerly that they exchanged gold for silver at a rate of 1 to 3. Okay, the Sudan Arabs preferred silver to gold, suggesting a higher value for silver in their society. The Old Kingdom Egyptians considered silver to be rarer and therefore more valuable than gold. The point here is, guys, is that, here, listen to this. Sir William Ridgway. What do you say we highlight this together, basement dwellers? All right, let's do that, and we'll do it in, what the heck? I don't know what's going on there. Hold on here. Welcome to the basement. I'm so glad you're here right now. Okay, super simple highlighter. What do you say we do that in cayenne, which is another way to say light blue? Sir William Ridgway, in his book, The Origin of Metallic Currency and Weight Standards, pointed out that silver must have been of higher value than gold at some point in all countries. However, as silver production increased, its value became equal to that of gold and eventually much less valuable. I want you to think about that for a second. Think about that for a second, because we know now, right? So there's times in history when silver is more valuable than gold. Check. Okay. I love gold. Don't get me wrong. You know, I own a ton of gold mining stocks. Absolutely love gold. I'm a silver stacker. Don't unsubscribe. Please subscribe. Please give this a thumbs up. But I'll be honest with you. When it comes to pretty, you put a gold coin and a silver coin in front of me, I prefer the silver, right? And apparently other people in history did as well, right? And the other thing that and I know, look, you put a gold coin and a silver coin in front of me and say I can have either one, even though I may think the silver's prettier, I'm still going to take your gold coin. Because it's worth right now, measured in unicorn fart dust, fiat, paper. Here comes a piece. Oh, it's floating around. I can't keep this stuff from flying around the basement. It's just nothing, right? Right? Because when you measure it right now in fiat dollar, right, that silver is what, 80 times, 76 times, whatever the gold to silver ratio is, more valuable. But I would think, if I'm just being honest engine with you, I would tell you that I think the silver is more beautiful. But what's hidden in that article, right? A lot of times it wasn't just the perception of beauty, it was the supply and the demand of silver and gold. Think about this, guys, that dictated these periods where silver became more valuable than gold. And aren't we, I know John Little last time, and if I'm wrong, John, correct me, but I believe John Little, last time I talked to him, pointed the fact out that there's actually more above ground gold right now in the world than there is more above ground silver. Now, all the gold, just because most gold never gets consumed, right? It gets stored either in jewelry or bars or coins, whereas silver, as we know, oh, have you heard? Silver's being consumed. Yeah, it's being put in all those solar panels. I think we covered that already, didn't we, basement dwellers? I mean, so the above ground amount of gold is more than that of silver. And right now, the mining ratio, this is crazy. For each 1 ounce of gold that's mined in the world, right, there's only 7 ounces of silver, right? So and then that silver is being consumed. I mean, really, like we could say conservatively 7-1. What would that be? Hold on, let's pull out the calculator. Here, I'm just for fun, right? And I'm not saying don't make any financial decisions. Hold on here, guys. Are you with me? You're not even with me. Here, now you're with me. Let's do an update. Please be up. Please be up. Okay, gold down 11, silver 31.20, let's say. And let's figure out at 7-1 what the silver price would be. Okay, 31.20 divided 3,100. I'm sorry. What am I saying here? 2,000. The gold price, $2,375 divided by 7. You're not going to believe it. That would be a $340 silver price right now. And that's just based on the ratio at which it's being mined and coming out of the ground. We're not even going to factor in that of that 7 ounces of silver for each 1 ounce of gold, a lot of those 7 ounces are being consumed, right? What, half of it at least? So I don't know, guys. To me, and I love gold. Go gold, right? Let's root for gold, Hey, let's root for a green day in the metals today. No matter what happens, I want you to know that I'll always be here for you. I appreciate you joining us here in the basement, home away from home, right? You're part of the group. So thank you for being here. Thank you to our sponsors, right? We've got Pimbex, Pimbex, First Mining Gold, and Fortuna Mining. You can learn about all 3 of those companies at their respective websites. I know you know how to use Google. I know you are smarter than the average bear. Thanks for being here, okay? And I'll see you soon. Thank you. Have a great day. Be nice.